Hey everyone, I'm John. Welcome back to episode 10 of my series where I read The Value of Freedom. It's a draft fully costed fiscal plan for an independent Alberta, and this is published by the Alberta Prosperity Project as a open for discussion document. And I want to really highlight that because the last two videos that I made, the one about Indigenous issues and the one about immigration issues, received a lot of comments and a lot of pushback. And honestly, I pushed back a lot against the plan as well. So much so that in the last video, if some of those things aren't cleared up a little bit, I'm actually going to fully admit I waive my support for Alberta independence. Like, this is a big issue for me. And so I'm happy to push back and be honest. And I think that's the position we should all take with this is, we don't want a bunch of people just, going along with this like sheep. In fact, this is our strength, right? Whereas the people who are opposed to us, they look at this and they say, oh, well, here's a document published by your leaders. How can you go against it? I guess it's more common on, maybe the more left-minded people to just think that, hey, we all got to follow the leader and do exactly what we're told. But no, in this movement, we're all free thinkers. We're Albertans. We have a variety of opinions, and we can agree on the bigger issue of independence, and we can argue like crazy on all these little issues. So go back and watch those previous videos. I recommend you watch them in the order that I'm publishing them. But if you want to watch the one about Indigenous issues or immigration, that's episode 8 and 9. And so now we're going to be talking about, went too far. Okay. So now we're talking about towards a great economic future. It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. Yogi Berra. Okay. Introduction and summary. The bulk of this document looks at the financial situation as it is today. In it, there are no material changes to tax policy, no material changes in government operations other than replacement of federal services. However, this section goes beyond that conservative suite of ideas and examines the impact of one suite of options, streamlined and business-friendly policies which an independent Alberta could implement. It considers the effect of a transformative economic and fiscal policy plan for an independent Alberta, particularly significantly, tripling oil production and almost doubling gas production enabled by simplified regulations. Woohoo! By capitalizing on Alberta's abundant natural resources, the plan delivers immediate benefits to citizens through tax relief, affordable education, and enhanced health care, while ensuring long-term prosperity through a robust heritage fund. Under this increased production scenario, speculative as it is, oil production projected to grow from 3.8 million barrels per day in 2023 to 9.5 million by 2045, natural gas from 11 billion cubic feet per day to 21 billion cubic feet per day. So that's cool. They're projecting a massive increase in oil production. The whole world wants to use oil and gas, and demand for oil and gas isn't going to go down like some people are saying. Our whole civilization depends on this. And so if the world is using oil, this is the argument I made back when I thought of it as Canadian oil, right? But it's Alberta's oil. If the world is using oil, it should be using Albertan oil. Of all the places in the world that produce oil, we have the highest environmental standards, the highest safety standards, the best partnerships with Indigenous peoples and the communities that are directly affected. Why would you buy oil from countries that have terrible human rights records and stuff like that? So it's good that Alberta's, for us to increase our production. And, this is an argument for Canada too, but they missed the boat on this. And so, here in Alberta, we want to produce our oil and gas industry. We want to get wealthy off of it, and we want to benefit all of our citizens. And we look at places like Iran right now. Like, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we weren't so dependent on them, hey? If the world wasn't so dependent on them. Direct revenue could rise from 144 billion in 2025 to 334 billion by 2045. Deregulation savings would add 670 billion, contributing to a total economic impact of $8 trillion, including over 300,000 new jobs and over 600 billion in wages. So, I mean, this is the summary, right? So I'm excited to see how those numbers are calculated. But I mean, on the face of it, I believe it. I think we're going to see a massive economic improvement in our new Republic of Alberta. The fiscal framework, which suggested in this section, replaces property taxes with a simplified frontage and per hectare fee, collecting 50% of current property tax revenue through a flat $50 per foot for urban properties and $125 per hectare for rural residential land. Okay. Introducing a flat tax. I guess we're going to we need some taxes, right? A municipal residency fee should be considered for every adult in every municipality so that the burden of municipal cost does not unfairly land on property owners. Interesting. But I just push back, right? Because everybody living in a municipality, lives somewhere. And even if you're renting, the homeowner, the person who owns that property, is paying those taxes. So you kind of already are paying it. I'm not against, from the face of this, I'm not against making the property owners pay the taxes. To address the resulting municipal shortfall, provincial grants of about $5 billion in 2025, scaling to about $6 billion in 2045, ensure continued funding for essential services like roads, schools, and public safety. It also ensures focus on city councils on base service provision by eliminating their power to increase their own funding and potentially wasting it on initiatives better done by other levels of government, if at all. I mean, again, my basic principle is government closer to the people is more accountable. So in that vein, I'm probably more in favor of letting municipalities continue to, tinker with things like taxes and service deliveries. But I mean, I don't think it would be more efficient to just say we're going to do this all as a republic at the highest level of government. I would say do this at the lowest level of government if possible. So I'm kind of actually pushing back here on what's being said. The tax structure eliminates personal income tax, saving households about $14,000 annually, reduces corporate income tax to 10%, introduces a 5% Alberta sales tax, generating a total government revenue of about $1 trillion over 2025 to 2045. So here's the thing. I think Albertans would be okay with an Alberta sales tax of 5% if it came with all those other drastic cuts to the other taxes. And you think about how a tax is set up, right? Is a sales tax is actually a more fair way in one sense, because it's the people who are buying things that are paying it. And in a sense, you don't have to pay the tax because you don't actually have to buy things. And like a sales tax is only set up on like non-essential items, right? So, and it also provides a very predictable source of income for the government. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people hate sales tax, right? So I'm just trying to give, the whole picture here when I discuss this. I'm not saying that I'm set in stone over this. Citizen-focused policies include reducing post-secondary tuition to $1,700 per year, providing free pharmacare and dental coverage for 1.5 million children, low-income household retirees, and investing $1.5 billion annually in venture capital for tech, renewables, and agriculture to diversify the economy. Okay, look. I am not a socialist. I don't want people dependent on the government. I do favor some social programs, but I would say a better way to try to set this up is that we're not funding the social programs directly with tax revenue. Rather, we spend a few years saving up a heritage fund. And then once that heritage fund is big enough, we can start to draw the interest out of it and then use that interest for some nice, juicy social programs. like it's a much more slow approach to it because everybody wants it right now. Like I want my health care and my dental care for my kids and all this stuff right now. And it's like, yeah, but that means we're paying directly for it with our taxes right now. If we take our royalty revenue, dump it into a heritage fund, and then grow that, then over the long run, even in the future, 100 years from now, when maybe the world isn't using oil and gas anymore, there's still going to be a lot of money there. And then we can still continue with our social programs that people want to have, but it's now sustainably funded from just a big pot of money that collected interest. I don't know. What do you think? Leave a comment below. Okay, the Heritage Fund, starting at $23 billion in 2025, receives about $290 billion in planned contributions plus any surplus, leading to the possibility of it growing to over $1 trillion by 2045, generating significant annual returns to ensure future stability. So, like, if that's true, that we can grow our Heritage Fund that quickly, then to say, hey, let's just hold off on introducing all these new social programs until that fund is actually big enough that it can start to fund some of these things. I mean, I'm in favor of that, especially when it's like social programs that we're not already used to having. You know, like the dental care and stuff like that. I don't know, whatever issues. Like, yeah, those are nice things to have. But like, we got to sustainably fund it. And I want our republic to be tight and focused and fiscally responsible. I don't want us to promise the moon. In a previous episode, I talked about how when somebody wins the lottery or when they get a big payout from a relative who dies and gives them some money, that person who's never had money before is often broke within a few years because they just kind of blow it all, right? It's like, here, I'm just going to spend with my credit card, spend and spend and spend. What's the solution to that problem? Throw more money at it. Let's just buy this and buy that. I don't want Alberta to have that mindset. Yes, there's a solid argument to be made that we're going to be billions of dollars ahead. This document lays out every year about $40 to $50 billion ahead when we are independent from Canada. But $40 to $50 billion is a limited amount of money. And we got a lot of things that we need to sort out and we need to prioritize them. And so I'm a little bit weary when we're talking about, you know, giving a lot of things away right away. While this plan is speculative and many plans which could be envisioned, it is indicative of what is possible for the sovereign country of Alberta. By balancing bold reforms with prudent savings, this plan positions Alberta as a prosperous, resilient, and forward-looking economy. Great. The robustness of an independent Alberta's financial capacity begs obvious questions such as, if Alberta had been independent and was asked to join Canada under the conditions, terms, and policies that the province of Alberta operates under today, why would we accept that offer? Now, that is a talking point that everybody who supports independence should just memorize. So let me read it again. If Alberta had been independent and was asked to join Canada under the conditions, terms, and policies that the province of Alberta operates under today, why would we ever accept this offer? And then this is where now, as an independent supporter, you should go and educate yourself about what the current terms are. A lot of us have like a surface understanding of, equalization and stuff like that. But for me, I'm learning more and more about our Constitution, which is really just a loose collection of documents that kind of like the British North American Act and stuff like that, which constitutionalize Canada and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But like, I wouldn't accept any of it. I don't want a king. I want my rights guaranteed and inalienable. I want free speech to be guaranteed. I want to have rights to my property guaranteed. I want to have the right to own and to use firearms for defense of my family and for fun and for hunting. I want my religious freedom to be guaranteed as well. I don't want the government to be able to ever take any of these things away. And we just don't have these things in Canada, right? And Canadians think that we do. They think that we have rights just like Americans, but we don't. And so I'm kind of alluding to the next video that I'm going to make, which is where I'm going to start reading. I think I'm going to start with the British North America Act, but hold off on that. Okay. Why have successive Alberta provincial governments, knowing the amount of Alberta's money, supporting the rest of Canada, not been pushing far harder for a better deal or driving Alberta independence as governments of Quebec have done for decades? Do they not want what's best for Albertans? Well, I mean, I've been around long enough to know that one of the big political movements in Canada was the West wants in, right? Preston Manning and Stephen Harper and these guys, with the Reform Party, the West wants in. And so, there's an implication here that maybe one of the strong points of winning a referendum, but maybe narrowly, or even being a little bit behind, right? Like a 48% or a 45%, where we still lose. That puts us in a better negotiating position to then say, hey, Canada, look, we're serious and we might do this again. And, we want a better deal. And so I guess that's a fair argument, although I don't want to renegotiate any better deal with Canada. I want to be completely independent. They do not care about the happiness. Do they not care about the happiness and well-being of every Albertan? Okay. Policy impact details. Key components: low cost post-secondary education, tuition reduced to 25% of current levels. Benefits: increased access to education, reduces student debt, and supports workforce development for diversification. Sustainability: lower cost than free tuition, easily affordable with long-term economic returns via skilled labor. As a guy who went through post-secondary as an adult, I went back to school when I was like 30. And I got my degree. I don't like the idea of just people going to school for the sake of going to school. And so I get it. Lower the costs. That's great. But lower the costs just so that more people can go? No. There's a lot of people at university who go there and get nothing out of it, and they just waste their money. And this is an economic drain on society because now those people have debt. Whether it's lower debt under this proposal here, it's still debt and it holds them back. And it's going to be difficult for them to get established in life. People who go to school with an intention to get a useful degree where there's like an actual job at the end of it, okay, that's good. Also, whenever you have student loans, this is my problem with student loans, is it's nice to give that to people. But at the same time, it just encourages universities to, invent fluffy degrees that don't really mean anything and stuff them with all these fluffy little courses that don't mean anything. Like, I could have done my whole accounting degree in 2 years, take out all the stupid fluff courses that, like, I had to take a course in how to use Microsoft Word. Okay? You know what I mean? Like, take out things like that. And universities are just getting stuffed up with this, and they know that they can charge for it because the students have this line of credit or this debt that they can just take on. So maybe make tuition even higher. Like, we want serious people to go there. Leave a comment. How many enemies did I just make now? No personal income tax. We want talented people to want to move to Alberta and apply their skills and talents, and let them keep the fruits of their labors. Yeah, good. If we can do this with no personal income tax, that is the biggest selling feature for Alberta independence. Like, everybody's going to gain from that. And this document's making a solid argument. If you want to go back and look at I think it's video 2 and 3, where I kind of go through the budget and explains how this is possible. We have the same level of services, but since we're not paying for, like billions of dollars to Canada, we can lower our taxes and still maintain the same level of services. Like, that's been a reoccurring argument in this whole document. 5% Alberta sales tax, provincial sales tax similar to GST. So move towards more consumption-based taxation, which inherently is virtuous, rewarding investment and savings rather than the wealth income tax approach, which penalizes economic success. Depending on future revenues, this could be reduced. Yeah. Okay, a 10% corporate income tax reduced from 23% to attract businesses. Intent is to make Alberta the place to invest, grow, and succeed your business, all of which will increase the overall wealth and well-being of Albertans. Depending on future revenues, this can be reduced or eliminated. Here's the thing to understand about this. International businesses especially, they will go and locate wherever the lowest taxes are. Right? We see a lot of tech companies, for example, that go to like Ireland because they have low taxes over there. And it's like if we can make our tax rate, our corporate tax rate, as low or even lower than other jurisdictions around the world, they're going to start coming here. And that's actually going to lowering our tax rate, attracting more businesses, increases the amount of people paying into it, which then increases the overall amount of taxes we collect. So, it's kind of a little bit counterintuitive to people, but once you wrap your mind around it, like, yeah, that actually makes sense. So having a low corporate income tax is a really good idea. Okay, pharmacare and dental coverage free for low-income families, those under 18 and retirees. Improves health outcomes, reducing long-term costs. Unrelated dental issues cost Canada $1 billion annually in emergency care. Okay, I didn't know that. I'll take that. I don't know where you got that number from, but that sounds reasonable, actually, like preventative. So you can make the argument for a social program where it's like doing nothing costs us more in the long run because of these other externalities. Okay, good. Enhances quality of life for low-income and senior citizens, reduces financial stress, as 20% of Albertans skip dental care due to cost for 2023 surveys. So, okay. One thing I'll just say is like there's an underlying premise that I haven't addressed in this document, and it's basically saying it's calling us a commonwealth, the Commonwealth of Alberta. And to me, a commonwealth is more like I got to think about it a little bit more. But when I'm hearing about all these social programs that are kind of being introduced here, and then the previous one talking about environmental stuff like that, I don't know. Leave a comment below, guys. I'm going to go look this up. What is a commonwealth? But I apologize. I should know more things. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Venture Capital Diversification Fund supports technology advancement, advanced manufacturing industries such as AI data centers and agriculture to reduce oil dependency. Frontage and hectare fee replaces dwelling value property taxes with a tax based on frontage and acreage municipal and non-rural farm dwellings. It is in the realm of possibility to eliminate property taxes altogether depending on future revenue. Municipal residency fee could be used by municipalities to manage their growth by raising fees on new residents or lowering fees. Municipal funding, provincial grants, 5 to 6 billion Canadian per year, covers a shortfall from reduced property tax revenue. I don't know. I mean, sure. Allows targeting of funding to specific services or infrastructure. Helps ensure municipalities stay in their lane and focus on basic service provision to residents. Heritage Fund. Target to provide a sovereign wealth fund of over $1 trillion by 2045. Sufficient to sustain pharmacare, healthcare, and education post-oil boom, mimicking Norway's intergenerational wealth model. There we go. There we go. That's what I like to hear. Provides revenue stability, although strong rules regarding withdrawals are essential to prevent politicians from plundering the fund for short-term needs. So that's got to be another thing, right? Because politicians want to get in, and then they're like, okay, well, here's a problem. It's short-term, but it's lots of political points if I stand up behind this thing, and here, we'll just take some money out of the fund. And this has been the thing that's dogged Alberta every step of the way when we've tried to do this. Because they tried to have a heritage fund, from when I was a kid even. And it's like we put a little bit of money in there, and then it's just gone. It's like, where'd it go? Well, we used it for this thing. It's It's like there's got to be strong rules. You can't just withdraw it, because we want this fund to grow. So like maybe it has to grow by a certain amount every year, and if we don't reach that target, then you don't get to withdraw anything from it. What are the economics supporting a future Alberta? Our discussion in this future-looking section needs to begin with what assumptions are necessary to gain material increased revenue for an independent Alberta as compared with the status quo calculations done elsewhere in this document. Key assumptions. Deregulation. Broadly speaking, this would eliminate the more onerous of the Canadian regulations, including carbon taxes, emissions caps, and mandatory carbon capture and storage CCS requirements. Yeah, I want to see deregulation. Global demand. Global oil demand is projected to grow modestly until the mid-2030s and then decline gradually due to energy transitions. Pie in the sky kind of stuff. I remember in like 2005 reading books about peak oil and how global demand is going to decline. No, it's not. Oil is not going to decline. The only thing that's going to cause oil demand to go down is going to be some massive technological breakthrough like cold fusion, which then we can massively start recycling plastics that are currently not economical to recycle, and shift our whole electric grid to something like that. But we're still going to need oil and gas, and demand is going to keep going. So I don't trust these IEA predictions. That's from the UN. So that's interesting here as well, right? With demand still by 2040 near $100 million or million barrels per day, i.e. projections, natural gas demand may remain robust longer due to its role in energy transitions and its integral usage for expanding cogeneration facilities. Okay, that is a big assumption, so it's a key assumption. Market access. Alberta secures sufficient pipeline capacity, expanded Trans Mountain, Keystone Revival, or new infrastructure to support increased production without bottlenecks. And so a lot of people push back on Alberta independence and they say, oh, but you're landlocked, you don't have access to a port. It's like, well, we're actually policy locked right now because the people deciding if we have access to the ports or not live in Ottawa, and they have different values and motivations and plans. And so we're policy locked, but if we are independent, we gain a serious advantage because now this is leverage. We can say, look, if you don't want to trade with us, we're not going to trade with you. You want to pass through our territory, you're going to have to let us trade through your territory. That's leverage that we don't have. As well, we can trade directly with the United States without having to go to Ottawa first and be like, please let us trade with the United States. No, we'll just be like, we're going to do it. They want to do it. It's in our best interest. It's in their best interest. Let's make a deal. So market access, that to me seems like a very fair assumption. Investment climate. Deregulation attracts significant capital investment, reversing recent trends of reduced investment due to policy uncertainty. Like, how many... I try not to pay attention too much to the news, but I've heard about big, huge projects by CNRL and various companies that are just being canceled because of policy uncertainty, right? Like, we get an MOU that's supposed to save us, but then the Prime Minister, who it's his decision, he gives these provinces a veto over it. And so essentially it's like, well, is this going to happen or not? And so an independent Alberta is not going to have, this climate of uncertainty. It's going to be like, we're open for business. We want to do this. Let's go. Technology. Existing extraction technologies improve incrementally, lowering costs and increasing recovery rates, but no major technological breakthroughs are assumed. Good. Okay? Because that would be a very fatal assumption. All right. Baseline and historical context. Current production, 2023. Alberta produces about 3.8 billion barrels per day of oil, mostly oil sands, and 11 billion cubic feet per day of natural gas. Oil sands production grew at a cumulative average growth rate of 9% from 2000 to 2018, but slowed 2.5% annually from 2018 to 2022 due to regulatory constraints. Wow. So oil percent was growing about 9% per year from 2000 to 2018 and has slowed to 2.5%. That's what Trudeau did to us. That's why you see empty warehouses and oil field facilities that with all their trucks parked and they're not moving. Due to regulatory constraints, pipeline limitations, and global market dynamics. Emissions impact. Well over half of the production of CO2 from oil sands is due to natural gas creation of steam for injection. Seeking better means to produce steam required for oil sands operation using nuclear power as an example could reduce emissions by avoiding CCS and emissions reduction investments, estimated at $10 to $20 billion, $10 to $20 per barrel in some cases. So just to explain what they're saying here is the current technology for one of the current technologies for extracting oil is called SAGD. It's where they drill two wells and they go right underneath, one goes right underneath the other one. And then the top one injects steam and that melts it and then it kind of all drains down and then they can pump it out of the bottom well. And so the way they create that steam is they will use a lot of groundwater, right? But then they also they use natural gas from other wells that they drilled, and then that natural gas burns to heat it up to produce the oil. And so using nuclear power to do this, to create the steam instead of using natural gas would greatly reduce the carbon footprint. Like, if that is economical, if it's cheaper to do it that way too, like all the better. Regulatory costs. Alberta's current carbon pricing, tier system, and federal emission caps increase operational costs. Eliminating these costs could save producers $5 to $15 per barrel, depending on oil type and facility. Like, that's a lot of carbon tax. And when you raise the price of something, people don't stop buying it. When you raise the price of oil and gas, people don't stop buying it. It's just producers stop producing in those areas and they go and produce in other areas. So a carbon tax isn't helping the planet. It's just taking money out of our economy and hurting us, and then enabling dictatorships and making us more dependent on foreign countries. Economic impact calculation, direct revenue from oil and gas production. Oil revenue 2045 production 9.5 million barrels per day, midpoint. Price $85 a barrel. Annual revenue $9.5 million barrels per day. Current 2023 revenue 3.8 million barrels per day. Incremental avenue revenue. Okay, cumulative revenue, assuming linear growth from 3.8 to 9.5 million barrels per day. Average annual production 6.65 million barrels per day, yielding $4.2 trillion over 20 years. Okay, I mean, that seems like a pretty fair estimate. Like, if these projects are lined up and if the companies want to invest because we've deregulated and we've created a situation with low taxes where the companies come back, the oil and gas is here. They're not going to go to some other place and be like, let's invest in oil and gas over there if those places don't have oil and gas. So, attracting them here, it's reasonable to assume that we're going to have a massive increase, and this is a lot of money, $4.2 trillion over 20 years from oil. Now, from natural gas, 2045 production, 21 billion cubic feet per day. Midpoint estimate, price $4.30. Annual revenue, 21. Current reserve, okay. Incremental annual revenue. Cumulative revenue, annual production over 20 years. So total direct revenue, this is what we want to look at. Annual by 2045, $333 billion. Cumulative, 2025 to 2045, $4.7 trillion. And it's probably not going to be in Canadian dollars, because by the time that happens, if we're an independent Alberta, I hope we have our own currency. But we're going to be doing okay. And as long as we say, like, there's, we save, they're saying save 1 trillion of that. I want 2/3 of this. I want our natural gas and oil money to not be funding day-to-day activities. I want that money to go into the Heritage Fund. I want taxes that we pay right now to pay for our day-to-day activities. And I want to save all the royalties so that in 10 or 15 years, we can start to just live off of the interest and then start to reintroduce more social programs. My humble opinion. Okay, cost savings from deregulation, oil savings, $13 a barrel. Okay, so $647 billion. Gas savings, 30 cents per, all right, okay. $31 billion in gas. Total savings, $678 billion is what they're projecting we're going to save from deregulation. So it's cutting all the government fluff out of things. Okay. Broader economic impact, the multiplier effect. Using a 1.75 multiplier, direct revenues of $4.7 trillion generate an $8.23 trillion total economic activity. So the idea here is that since the oil and gas industry is so big, there's so many other industries that kind of revolve around it that are also going to benefit. And so it's fair to just say, well, if this industry grows by this much, then the industries that are around it are also going to grow. So job creation, the oil and gas sector supports about 140,000 direct jobs in Alberta. Doubling production could add 100 to 150,000 jobs and 200,000 to 300,000 indirect jobs. Manufacturing transport with average salaries of $80,000 contributing to $24 to $32 billion annually in wages. Like, oil and gas jobs are good paying jobs. Okay, infrastructure spending 65 to 130 billion in pipelines and LNG facilities boost GDP by 115 to 230 billion dollars. Multiplier applied over 10 to 15 years. Government revenue, royalties and taxes. Alberta collects 10 to 15 billion dollars annually in oil and gas royalties, 10 to 20% of revenue depending on prices. With production 2.5 times higher, royalties could reach $25 to $37 billion annually by 2045. Corporate taxes. Increased profits due to higher production and cost savings could generate $5 to $10 billion annually in taxes, assuming a 23% combined federal-provincial tax rate. Okay, wait. Increased profits could generate, assuming a 23% combined provincial tax rate. So wait, what? Okay, cumulative government revenue, $500 to $750 billion over 20 years, assuming stable royalty regimes. Well, and it's good they have a big swing there because oil royalties will shift quite a bit, right? The price goes up and down. Sometimes when it's higher, you make more money, right? Total economic impact, 2025 to 2045. Direct revenue, 4.71 trillion. Cost savings, 678 billion. Total economic activity with the multiplier, 8.24 trillion. Government revenue, 500 to 750 billion. Annual impact by 2045. Revenue, 333 billion. GDP contribution, 583 billion with multiplier. Jobs, 300,000 to 450,000 new direct jobs. Like, people are saying that Alberta is going to be worse off once we leave Canada. Like, this is making the argument that we're going to be better off. And so if you want to say that we're going to be worse off, tell me how. Like, how? Risks and uncertainty. So price volatility. Oil and gas prices could drop below $60 a barrel or $3 for natural gas, reducing revenue significantly. A $10 barrel drop cuts revenue by about $45 billion annually by 2045. We're seeing that right now with the war in Iran, is that the price of oil has went up so much that, based off those numbers, Alberta might be able to balance its budget this year. Trade barriers could trigger carbon tariffs. EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism increase export costs by 10 to 15%. Sure. The EU doesn't want our oil and gas. Okay. there's other places that want our oil and gas. The United States and China and, Japan and heck, even Africa. Like, there's lots of places that are going to want our products. South America. So if the Europeans want to continue to be short-sighted and think that they're going to switch to windmills and just carbon tax everybody until we don't use oil and gas anymore, let them. Investment needs. Sustaining growth requires $200 to $300 billion in capital investment, potentially straining Alberta's fiscal capacity. Local costs. Relaxing environmental regulations may increase healthcare and environmental remediation costs. Tailings pond cleanup estimated at $130 billion. I mean, we relax the environmental costs and then we all get sick because of it. Like, I am not in favor of relaxing any environmental policies if it means that we're going to get sick. So I definitely want laws that protect the environment, at least to the point where it's like we're not arguing that, hey, if we stop cleaning this up or protecting this certain thing, then we're all going to get sick from it. Like, I don't know. Okay, so I guess that's a risk and an uncertainty. Now, this is a good place for me to, fiscal summary. Yeah, this is a good place for me to stop this series because I'm already at 41 minutes. So I'm going to pick up on the next video here at fiscal summary. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Cheers.